pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's pray. Father, thank you for this day that you've given us. God, we thank you that the weather's fixing to warm up for a little while, and we just pray that you would just continue to keep everyone safe with the weather that we've had. God, I pray that you would be with us tonight as we meet and discuss different matters for the district. God, I pray that you give us wisdom as we talk through things and just give us wisdom as we make decisions. And God, I just pray that you would be with all the teachers and students as they will most likely be back at school tomorrow. I pray that you would just bless them as they come back and get back in the swing of things and just help them to do their best. And God, I just pray that you would once again bless this time tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.
I want to thank you card to Travis Dotson for that work he did down at St. Paul.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I thought that would be good for the board to.
Awesome. We'll go ahead and call this work session to order.
Thank you very much for coming on this rainy, somewhat icy night still. We have Natalie on the conference call. She is behind the board, but she is online with us. She will be able to follow. She has everything in her board packet to go through, and then we will just kind of go through the agenda and go through what we're trying to get accomplished with the facilities plan. And there's no actions, there's no vote or anything like that. We're just trying to nail down some future plans for the district and kind of see what we've worked on and what we need to plan for in the future. So the first item on there is our partnership funding update, and that is the 3 documents from the Arkansas Division of Public Academic Facilities. And I'm just going to talk briefly about all 3 of them. So if you remember in, I think it was in November, we came to you and we were talking about we're going to apply for funding might have been October, honestly, for specific projects in our district that we feel like need to be done, and you can get partnership funding from the state in order to get those renovations or things finished or completed. Now, it takes a while. We're talking about funds that we won't get until a year from now, but the update of that, if you submitted it by, I thought somebody asked a question. If you submitted it by November 1st, then they review it and they give you a chance to fix it if it doesn't get approved, or they say, yeah, you have preliminary approval for it. So we submitted 3 projects for that review. The first one that I'm going to point out is the middle school roof replacement roofs. As you can see in December, we were notified that one did not qualify for partnership funding, and the main reason was that we did not have enough supporting document in our work order system to show that it had a need. So we had they have a threshold, a limit, and we just didn't meet it. We had submitted some work orders in the past couple of years to fix repairs for the roofs, specifically in our library in that area, which they noted, but overall, for the overall campus, it just wasn't there to support partnership funding. So that one was, and to be honest, I don't know that we'll be able to resubmit because we're just not going to. We've searched and they've changed over systems. We're not going to make up work orders for it. So we tried to point out, here's this one from a long time ago in a spreadsheet, but I don't know that it'll work. So we'll see, but I'm not very hopeful on that one.
We realize there's still a need there, even though we didn't get the partnership funding. The more work orders we can put in, the more likely we'll be able to get partnership funding for that the next go around.
So in a couple of years, you put in again and cycle, and and you look to see what happens. Because, you know, the facilities plans base a lot of things, they call it warm, safe, and dry, you know, warm, heat and air, you know, safe, security, and then dry, you know, ceiling repairs, stuff like that. So, the second one is the St. Paul Middle School replaced roof. That one did get approved. So when we look at the third page, I'll just kind of go down to the very bottom where the numbers are, the actual, the partnership funding that we will receive potentially, and I have to keep saying to myself that it's potential, you know, it's preliminarily approved and it's all based on, and it's not guaranteed. That's the best way I can put it. So this number with our current wealth index, that is the percentage that the state will pay for stuff for that is our part of what will have to be paid for. Meaning that the state will pay for the 60, you know, we've been using 67% as our number that the state will go with, or I have. And then we would be accountable for the 34% basically. So they give you the average square foot cost, the qualified cost, that's based off of the numbers that we gave them from, you know, 2 or 3 different companies that came in and looked at our roofs and said, here's the high priority. You know, we had Harness Roofing, we had another company called Coriel Roofing that came in and looked at them. So they submitted that information to us and we submitted it to the state in that area. So the qualified cost was $83,000 and the projected state funding was $54,000. So rough round numbers. So that is good. I mean, that's, you know, 3/4 of it being paid for or 2/3 of it being paid for by the state. And I will say, you know, these are preliminary numbers, they're preliminary approval. We're not, you know, we are not contractually obligated to go forward with the work. It just basically becomes, till we do it, you know, it's just numbers out there. It's almost like a reimbursement system to some extent.
Once we get actual approval, do we go back and get bids at that point, or how does that actually work?
I don't think we have to rebid it necessarily. I think there is a little bit of an adjustment time that they can look at. Does it go up? Does the cost go down? But it won't fluctuate very much, and we will. If we're looking at 1.5 years or whatever, from the Right.
beginning of the process to the end of the process, that's a long time
It is.
for somebody to hold a bid. I just,
Oh, no, I
you know what I mean?
understand
Like,
that.
I didn't know if we had to basically redo that process.
No, I mean, we get the preliminary approval. There are some periods of adjustments, the way I understand it. Now, you can't hold me to it.
Right.
You know, we do get a final bid on what the work will cost, yes. I should put it that
I didn't
way.
know if it changed anything.
And I think it has the
Down.
potential to change
Okay.
the amount of funding that we receive.
Okay.
They base a lot of that off of that wealth index. And if that fluctuates, then there's some other numbers that come into play as well.
I know, you know, with working with contractors
for
and
sure.
stuff all the time, you know,
Yeah.
their quotes are good for
X
just a
amount,
period of time.
30 days or 60 days typically. Well, not typically, but.
You know, when I was doing, you know, project management and estimating, we got down to where we had a 10-day there for a little while because prices were going crazy.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what the process was there.
I'll just make a note to clarify that for us and then, because I don't feel like I'm giving you good information.
So what you're thinking is the state's gonna pay that percentage, even if the bid goes up, that percentage will still
I'm
be
pretty
paid
sure.
of the new bid.
That's basically what I was
Yeah.
getting at, like, and if it goes down, they'll pay that 67 or 60, whatever percent.
Roughly
I'm glad you
66%.
did boys had that figured out, cause you lost me.
But there's also the possibility of our wealth index going up in that timeframe too. I mean, with the community growth and all of that, our wealth index could climb a
Could
little bit.
fluctuate. And then, so I'll definitely clarify that. And there's other things that even I, in the last 10 minutes before this meeting started, I was trying to make notes and things, and I'm like, oh, I need to find clarification on that.
Well, it's just such a long time frame.
It sure is, yeah.
It's just,
Yeah, you're bidding for things, you're putting in information for things that are a year down the road.
Oh, there ain't no doubt. I mean, it's
it's gonna change
Yeah.
one way or the other.
Yeah.
And with the way the market is right now, I mean, it's kind of slowing down a little bit, so there's a chance that it might get a little cheaper.
Yeah.
The last one is the intermediate school. When we tried to do this for the last couple of years, and 2 years ago it was not funded. It was a project that was kicked back to us, and this time around it did get a preliminary approval, and I'll refer once again to that third page. Qualified cost of $1.4 million, projected state funding of $900,000. So once again, 2/3 of it for
Well, it's a membrane roof,
full roof replacement at the intermediate school. So,
like St. Paul's is shingle, so it's,
and it's a much smaller building.
Yeah.
As the intermediate is a standing seam roof. It's not a membrane.
so does that need to be noted on here then?
Part of intermediates is membrane.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just looking at the paperwork here and it said membrane, single ply with tapered insulation.
51,000 square foot of it too.
That's
So, I just wanted to update you on that process. We will be talking through with our, Dr. Stein, who you all have never met. I understand that, but he has been very valuable in this process for sure, in that he earned his fee in about 10 minutes when I was down with the state, because I didn't know the question to ask, to point out something, and he did. Specifically on the St. Paul roof, we went from where they had approved $30,000 basically to, as far as the cost of the actual roof, to $80,000. He just pointed out, his experience and his knowledge of the system paid off within that time frame for sure. So, anyway, any other questions? And I will definitely find out about this timeline and have some clarifying information.
Well, that and, there may be some contractors out there that wasn't available whenever we got these back last year that now they don't have as much work going on, so.
Yeah.
Might
be more
it might open
competitive.
up some, kind of like, what was it, the air conditioning units, we were able to get one, I think, was J-Dub the only one that, because nobody else had time or the manpower to do it. It's starting to slow up a little bit, so, we make it a little bit more competitive.
Right. So the second thing, this is kind of out of order in your packet, but I went ahead and just put the survey that we did for from the public input. I had given this to you back when we got it. It would have been in September, not in September, but probably October or November. It's just we sent out a QR code to kind of get what people thought they needed in regards to facilities. I'm trying to remember, we asked these two questions. Considering our current facilities in Huntsville School District, what changes, updates, or modifications would you recommend? And then the next question, question B, is if the Huntsville School District were able to add buildings, athletic complexes, or any other structures, what would you recommend? And so, we went through these, and I feel like we have based a lot of what we're going to discuss tonight off of this information. A lot, I can't say a lot, but it did influence what we've put in on our potential fluid 10-year capital project plan. But I just wanted you all to have access to it again in case you wanted to review.
Could we talk about some
Sure,
of these
absolutely.
answers? And it also seemed to me that it seemed like more of the responses came from the St. Paul area. So that's telling me they're maybe feeling like they're the stepchildren. And we don't ever want that to be the case. And so, first of all, I want to know, it says the old gym at St. Paul needs new heating to prevent mold. Also probably needed air conditioning to prevent it from being a swimming pool during the summer because the floor is so wet. But what it says it's, what do we use it? And it says it's a historic place. So is there funding for that? What do we use it exactly for?
It's used during the day as as
PE.
an overflow PE.
Okay.
I do know that. They do their prom in it, I think. Pretty sure. Performing arts, yeah, that has a play in it. So because it has a stage. So it's utilized. It
So-
is, go ahead.
Is it still structurally totally sound? Because like Old Main, I loved Old Main, we probably all loved Old Main. But unfortunately, I mean, and I don't know how historic it was, but it was a CCAC building, but we had to sacrifice it so that we could get something better. So I'm just wondering, how sound is it? Is it?
I'm just positive it's structurally sound, but it does have a lot of issues that need addressed. Anything from the peeling paint to the pigeons. The pigeons have always been a gripe of mine.
I think we've taken care of that issue with pigeons.
Because that causes a health issue.
As far as the little side rooms off of the stage, have they been cleaned since I was in there?
I haven't looked at those in a while, so.
That deep on the floors.
I know, Mr. Trahan's class worked on there was a structure on the backside of that, and Mr. Trahan's class worked on taking that out.
It looked good when they tore it down.
Yeah, patching the hole and everything, and that should take care of a lot of the mess that was being caused in there, but.
Yeah, I think the biggest part of them were coming in around an old fan that needed some attention around it, the old attic fan there. Maybe it's been corrected, I'm not sure.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
issues with it.
observing, that's where they was going in and out quite a while.
Yeah, I think they're hurt. I don't know, it's been a long time but I just remember the boys going down there to play in the summer and the floor was so wet from the humidity that it literally was all wet, so I don't
There is a
know.
problem with moisture,
Yeah.
Well, I do know that it needs some heat. I mean, and the last quote they had gotten was like $12,000 to get gas and to get heat up there. I haven't had a chance to go look and see if we've got some other options to get some heat in there, but plumbing wise, I know there's some deficiencies in plumbing that needs to be kind of taken care of. Electrical, I think the electrical's not in too bad a shape. Now, I haven't went through the electrical with a fine tooth comb to see, but the biggest issues that I see is, talking with Jeff down at St. Paul, is we do need to look at some kind of foundation ventilation to help get some humidity out of there, to help with the structure. But as far as the structure itself, it's sound. I don't see any problems with it. But I mean, there's a few issues. I mean, when was that building built? I mean, and I kind of hate to say it, but that old gym's probably really in better shape than the Charles Berry gym in a lot of ways. So, from
Well,
what I've
I've been in
seen.
the attic of that old gym, it's got just the biggest old timbers you ever seen anything. It's like you saw them yesterday. They're not hurt as far as.
Yeah, I mean, it is a neat old building, I will say that. It's kind of like Old Main, it's one that you hate to see go, but
I do believe 2 years ago, when a lot of fill was brought in the white chat, that it did deplete some of the vents that was on the foundation area, it built it up. It'd be, if you was looking at gym from the high school on the left side, I know that was brought up a good 4 or 5 foot, just to where it's right in the door, where you used to have 4 or 5 steps going up before you went
Right.
in the doors. So I figure some of the venting underneath it went away then.
I don't wanna speak out of turn, but I do hear often that one of the issues with any work that we need to do there has to follow strict guidelines because of
It does.
it's on
It's
register.
Because it's on the register.
It does make it a little bit more difficult, not to make an excuse to say that it shouldn't be done, I'm just.
Yeah, I was pointing out some holes in the ceilings one day and I was told that we couldn't touch that. I said, well, someone needs to touch it. You know, it's just, not just holes, stuff hanging out of the holes.
I know a lot of times once a building goes on that historic registry, you've got to put it back to a certain, guidelines of what it.
I agree.
Mhm.
And
What
those
they
don't
gotta do.
always meet the current standards.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think if we do very much of there's a certain percentage that if we go in there that we can kind of touch, but if we cross that percentage threshold, yeah, we may be in trouble with it. So, I mean, it's kind of, and I'll kind of take the blame for this, but basically all I've tried to do since I've come on is just make sure it's maintained, and make sure that, it's operable. Mr. Trahan's a wealth of information down there. He's worked with the Historical Society on it, and that's something that we can talk to him with and see where we can go and what we can do moving forward with that building.
Her and Janelle Riddle, Janelle had a lot to do with getting that on the Historical Society. She could have a lot of answers for you, I figure.
Well, it sounds like probably heat and humidity are the two biggest issues.
Ventilation,
That and the peeling paint, it has got a lot of peeling paint.
Yeah. Well, more than likely that's to do
Because of the
with,
moisture.
it's
Gently fix that.
the air conditioning or, just not
Well, there's no
technically
air
air
conditioning
conditioning.
in it.
Well, it's just being a conditioned air space, whether it be heat or cold,
Well, the folks around there sure take a lot of pride in that old gym,
Yeah.
everyone's families grew up. It'd be nice to see it get some attention.
well, absolutely.
Focus on those two things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I may end up making some people mad, but apparently they've done some plumbing and didn't put a drain in so that they couldn't leave water dripping on it, and whenever it got so cold, it froze and froze up over there, so they just shut the water off to that gym right now, so hopefully next week we don't find the sprinkler system in there.
That wasn't
So-
planned.
So, yeah, there's some issues there that we need to address.
The other thing I saw that I thought seemed like a really big thing was on the first page there where it says, at St. Paul, the dirt road to the left of the schoolyard where we pick up and drop off elementary kids, that it's not paved. And first of all, the poor custodians, all those kids getting off when it's weather like this and going in and out, that just has to make keeping the building so much harder. And it also says like safety, that was looks like a safety issue.
Would that not be county?
I think it's actually St. Paul City.
St. Paul City?
St. Paul's in Gulf City, they've got a judge and everything.
I believe it's the road by the bus stop.
It's really the only unpaved.
They don't drop off there, they just go
Right.
through.
And so is it on school property or is it like the city of St. Paul?
A good
But-
question.
But what you're saying is they don't technically drop their kids off on a dirt road to where they could be tracking.
The way I interpreted that is that it was the road that goes by the bus stop there.
Yes.
And so that's the access road they get to it, but to my knowledge, they're not letting the kids off,
Right,
they're using it to pull in front of the
Parents
school.
let their kids out there, but as far as the buses, no.
Gotcha.
But the parents aren't pulling in front of the school, like they're letting them off in that.
No, they'll come right down to the end of that alley, stop, and let them out, and then carry on.
Because at the end of that it meets pavement there at the school.
Right.
So maybe it's just signs and redirecting or traffic flow
If they're not
issue.
actually dropping off there, it's no different than this road right here.
Because someone did point out a good issue there, like I say, I dropped off my kids there, I had 3 of them in there. But, as soon as you head down through there, here comes old Joe coming up the wrong way. The right way is from the highway down to the school. I don't care if you bring your kids or pick them up. So, yeah, I could use a sign one way, but whether it's city or school, I don't know.
Who is the mayor down there, St. Paul?
Well,
They just switched, didn't
It's gotta be.
been jumping around a lot, but,
Mr. Springston, I thought is who it was.
it was for a little bit. It may be.
I think
They
him
jumped
and
around
Miss
because
Linda
something
swapped
they did
spots.
wasn't up to par according to the rules and laws of it.
Maybe we need to reach out to them.
Yeah, well, or I'm sure we can have signs. I mean, we have signs like keep the flow the right way
Yeah.
for everything else, so just as signs up so that we're going the right direction and
It's either Springston or Linda Simmons. It'd be
It's
one.
Rob Springston.
Yes, the last person I talked to was Mr.
Okay. Ron.
Ron. Go ahead. I was saying, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
They have their city council meeting tomorrow night, they've had to move it twice because of weather, so I don't know if that helps.
another safety, I don't know, it says fixing the swings on the upper elementary playground at St. Paul. So are there just like no swings, are they broken? Does it just need to buy some swings to hook onto the swing set?
PPSO, I mean, PPSO does all playground type stuff.
Well, okay, I wanna kinda take some fault on this. Back in before it turned off cold, there is one set of swings, and it's like either 5-inch or 6-inch drill stem pipe that's put in the ground, I mean, and it's got a brace that goes across it, and long story short, I talked to the CTE boys, the maintenance department doesn't wanna touch that because of liability issues, we could go in there and weld it, I could go in and weld it, but for liability issues for the school and all that stuff, we don't really wanna take a bite out of that. The welding instructor,
Robinson.
Robinette, he is a certified welder, and I have talked to him, and he will weld that bracket and get it back in order for us. But again, that was before, I kinda let the ball slip on that, because that was during warmer weather, now it's cold, and, and I
Not swinging now.
hadn't got back to it, but he said that he would take care of that on that swing, and that would put that one swing set back in operation. I think another thing in there is that I don't know if I read it here or somebody else had told me, but about like the basketball goals and stuff like that, we need to probably take a look at and address it on them.
Okay, so things for the kids that really aren't gonna be that big a deal, but could make a big difference that they'll play with. I know it talks about wanting baseball fields down there. And I know we're like gonna be looking at that up here.
That'd be more of a city thing.
But at the same time, we don't have baseball fields until now. And I'm gonna tell this story just so that St. Paul knows Huntsville doesn't just throw money totally, constantly at their athletic programs. Back in the late 90s and in the early 2000s, Coach Barry, Miss Johnson, and myself were the track coaches. We had no high jump, no long jump, and no hurdles, 0. We were able to win 3 district championships with Matt's wife on one of them in a row, and take away the dynasty that Berryville had had forever, because they had a track cheer for just being imaginative. Coach Hall was over at Eureka, and they've had a gym forever, a track forever. And so once a week, Coach Hall would leave out all the hurdles and the high jump pit and the bar and everything. And we would load up the girls in those events into my van, and we would drive over to Eureka Springs, and we would practice. And then we would haul them back. Now, Miss Johnson and I were both volunteer coaches getting paid 0, and there was no reimbursement for gas. And I'm just saying, it isn't that Huntsville just throws money no matter what, whoever asks for it.
Well, and Huntsville's baseball
Yeah.
program is, I would say 80% funded by Coach Harris's fundraising.
Yes,
I mean,
yeah, and so
when you
we don't
correct me if I'm
want,
wrong,
If
it's
not more,
I mean, it's just,
and I don't want them to ever think we're thinking oh, well, we don't want you to have a baseball program, but it might be somebody's gonna have to really step up and if they really want that, and go to the city, I looked up today, there's Park and Recreation offers grants that St. Paul would fit perfect into it because of the few people in the community. It has like, you can only have X amount, you have way less. And that they fund up to like, on the fun park, $100,000. So I'm thinking you might be able to get some sort of baseball, softball field.
There's an old field down there that didn't wash away.
It's just,
I was gonna say, I mean, I ain't been on it in years, but and it was a decent old field in the 70s and 80s.
Well, we've
You know,
looked
that's
at
been
it,
a while.
and I think some of the, it's gonna need some fence repair.
Right.
Probably dugouts, bleachers are gonna need to be replaced, and then the lighting's gonna need to be checked as well, so
Right.
It's
it's,
cities, it's the city's baseball field, isn't it, or
I
is it
would
owned
be
by the?
lying if I even guessed at that, I don't know.
It's school.
that
It's
was
cool.
cool.
Okay.
City's got one up at the park where they play softball and such.
Up at Stevens or whatever.
Stevens on the hill, but the one down low's definitely.
Yeah.
It's on.
Our school.
Cool. Okay.
And I think we all would love to see it, but we'd all love to see that here. It's just like the poor girls on the softball field, you know, we couldn't offer a whole lot,
Mhm.
but we'd do anything we could to help. So, but I think that'd be the way
Ain't
to
that
grow.
Don't that Gregory boy, ain't he big on writing grants down there, that works at the school?
Billy.
Yeah, you might put him on that, he might be able to get a little help for that, you know?
Billy's good for our school.
Yeah.
And if you look in Huntsville, we still don't have a track. And I'm hoping somewhere we finally did get some hurdles and a high jump pit, but I don't know where they are.
We used to have a pole vault deal and a thing, cause Carl Thomas pole vault, he
Oh,
broke
gosh.
records and all sorts of crap when we was in the junior high.
Well, now we're getting 40 years ago. I was just 20 years ago. Yeah,
Saying old Merle.
Yeah.
so, yeah, we would love, that's what we want for the kids,
I know RBS is a good avenue for that.
yes,
I
too.
know we were up one, when I was on the baseball board out there at Withrow, we were able to get a grant from them, I think it was, I don't know, $15,000 or something, but it allowed us to put a new fence around the, that middle field down there with Coach Pitch League, so.
And I see somebody, the kiln project was brought up, and I think, you wanna give us an update? And could you tell us how much has been spent out of the budget on that already, but not counting what was raised for the kiln?
The overall quotes that I've got was like right at $21,000 for the kiln project. By the time we got heat and air, met the fire department's requirements for, you know, firewall ratings and fire doors and all that, was right at 21. I'd have to, if I told you I'd be lying, I'm thinking I'm around 11,000 of what I've spent so far. And I feel really bad because I called the sheetrock guy to come in, you know, started trying to get a hold of him before Christmas break. Well, when I finally got a hold of him, he's gone for a month and a half doing apartments. So if anybody knows another sheetrock guy that I can call and get some quotes on,
Coy Welchel, right out here at the sheriff's department, had an ad on Facebook yesterday, don't know how good he is, but he was needing, if he made sheetrock done, holler at him. It was on Facebook yesterday or the day before.
if you could show me that post, I would call him.
And Steve Glasgow's probably, and he's.
I
I've
can
got-
get you the number, I
Yeah.
can get you the number.
You can give me Corey's, okay, yes.
Coy.
Because I don't have, I tried to get the sheetrockers that did my house to come do it, and they said, where's it at? And I said, St. Paul, and he just laughed at me. And I'm like,
He helped with tax capping, he did.
who's, Corey?
Coy and AC came with him.
Yeah, AC Ramirez does it too, I think they work together, don't they, quite a bit?
But, yeah, once we get that, finally, our electrician, he's ready to go. He's kind of slowed down enough now where he can get in and get started. Once we get it sheetrocked and painted, I mean, it's pretty much done. I mean, it's, I've got to set the air conditioner still, but I think I'll wait till a warmer day to do that, but
Were you just doing like a mini split in there, or?
yeah. Yeah, that way we've got heat and air off of it.
And bathroom for the library is all good?
Yeah, they got that done prior to school starting.
Yeah, so everything's good there. Okay.
Hey, I do have a question, sorry to chime in. It's very hard listening to everybody talk at one time, but, did we say that the baseball field at St. Paul was city owned, or is that school owned? Like, is that school property or city property?
School.
I
Or we don't know.
Bobby thinks it's school, he's pretty sure.
Well, I know that
thought
Jeff
it was school
maintains it.
property, but we need to figure that out.
I've got it on my notes to clarify who owns it, but
Okay, yeah, we don't, I mean, it's that baseball field, but we have so many kids who play TV baseball, but they can't advance because we don't have a program down there. We're trying to get a program, we don't even have bases, like, it's a whole thing. So anyway, I was just wondering, if it is city, then we can start looking at figuring out how we can get it fixed and go from there, but I just need to know who owns the property to start with.
But what we were saying is it might be something like the community may have to help with, like here, with the girls softball and fundraisers and those kind of things. We can't necessarily know that we can do it, at least at this time.
Start a booster club, start raising money.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But the St. Paul bus barn, they don't have any kind of place to go and
Would be good help on that.
eat or anything. I thought that was like,
Want us to put a restaurant in?
no, not a restaurant. Just like a little, do they have like a little room with?
Oh, they don't have a break.
They have a break room.
They do have a break
I
room?
don't
I don't
know.
know.
I was
Just
just
like
trying
a
to
break
understand
room that
the
was
question.
warm and cool. I don't know. That's what it said there is
thought
one.
it was already.
I thought there was an office in there.
I don't know.
There's an office.
What's in
Okay. Cafeteria, I don't know how that works. How does the cafeteria work when they need new stuff? Is it on like a cycle? Is it on, the state helps with that?
As far as equipment, it depends on what it is and if you catch it in time. They do have grants every once in a while, but it's infrequent. Or at least my experience has been that it's infrequent. It's more of if it's needed and we can afford it, we do it
And
or repair it.
the home ec building, I know our home ec people got new appliances, I think through Carroll Electric, didn't they?
No, it was through Perkins.
Through Perkins maybe. But I think before that, the time before that, they got some from Carroll Electric. And so they may need less down there.
Yeah. I've talked a little bit to Miss Milani about that. I just need to go down there and meet with her and see what she needs. And so our co-op gets Perkins funding every year, and then they split it up between the 16 schools. And so we can look at potentially replacing all of those, hopefully next year with Perkins funding.
That's awesome.
We just all of that has to be above and beyond minimum equipment requirements for that class. And so the way we did that here is our dishwashers have sanitizing steam. Our microwaves have air fry and, things like that are technology above what the minimum requirement is. So we can do the same thing down there at St. Paul.
Okay, so it's coming.
Yes.
It's coming. Now, I was confused on this one. This was referred to us here at Huntsville. That last one on the second page, it says the weight room is terrible. Don't we have a brand new weight room?
That's the gym.
In the activity center.
Yeah, but don't,
I think you're probably still referring to the old weight room, because not everybody has been able to see the new weight room.
oh, okay, but the football players can,
We still have the football team, the baseball team still use the green room, is what it's been,
well, it's
the old
upgraded. It
weight
used to be
room.
the dirt room.
The dirt room, then it became the green room, that's right, yes. I have heard both of those used.
I still call it the green.
But I do know that, basketball uses the one in the new arena. I know softball started to go down there and use it. And I've told the other sports, you can, it's there, it's available. But some of them have just decided to stay where they're used to.
Okay.
But I can also say that we have made, through Arvest, a donation, made over $8,000 worth of improvements in that weight room, that one specifically alone, just here in the last couple of months. So there were some things that were needed and it's being upgraded, and through some community support, we've been able to do that, so.
And is the field house stinky and ugly? I don't know, I never go in there.
It was 20 years ago.
It's a gym, it's gonna be stinky and ugly, yes ma'am, but I mean, it's not because it's not being taken care of.
Yeah.
About
It's just because
45 pairs of boys football cleats in the locker.
It's the nature of the
Honey,
beast
you
on
bad
that,
boys,
so.
you know what I'm saying.
I know, just from what I've heard from football players, like that's one of Henderson's pet peeves is to have a mess in the locker room, and so I know that he's
Okay,
really
I
trying
guess I
hard.
was, yeah, those I was.
Summer camp, they cleaned the locker room every day after practice. Somebody's cleaned the locker room. They was assigned to it, and the last one that cleaned it, picked up anything on it. If you left anything on the floor and it was yours, you had to go ask for it the next morning.
And I
If I
know,
remember right.
yeah, and even in the locker room,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter if they were there today, before they walked in the locker room, they have to take their shoes off before they come in. And, just to make sure we're not dragging anything in,
Okay,
things like
that's
that,
awesome.
so.
New classroom furniture at the middle school, are we, like, that's just kind of a rotating thing, isn't it? And as we
We
need,
try
we
to-
buy it?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't received any requests for it,
Yeah.
honestly, until it
Seen
came
it
up
on
for
this.
this timeframe.
Or there's some things that are just, it's been neglected for so long, you can't just.
You can't do everything at once.
Yeah.
Some of these complaints are hard to take serious without a signature too, because some people you can shoot them with a gold bullet and they complain.
But I mean, you know.
Well, it says
we-
campus-wide pantry for essentials, we already have that, who is our person, Miss, Trinkle used to be our, like, I don't know what you call it, homeless person.
That's me.
It's you, okay, we already have this available to kids
So,
in the pantry.
we don't necessarily have a pantry available, but we do, the Samaritan House provides, snack packs for us, and so the counselors are sending home snack packs. The counselors have requested, like, potential of a freezer and pantry that we could have here on district. One of my things with that is we have the Open Arms Food Pantry, we have the food pantry that comes to the parking lot over here once a
We have
month.
one up at the
First Baptist does a food pantry,
I think there's one more.
there's several, Presbyterian Church does one,
There's one
there's
out in
several
Forum,
right here.
once in a while, you'll see a semi at the big church in Forum, there are people.
There's one in
stuff.
Marble too.
Oh, yeah, they're like, put it out, you can come there and get like boxes
20
of
boxes,
it.
20-pound box of chicken and stuff, that's what somebody's in.
And I try to, we have that Hope Facebook page, I try to post on there when those are every so often, just so people can,
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
stay up with that, but.
And I know Betty has hygiene supplies at the high school level, I don't know if every school
Yeah.
that they package for the kids and make bags. We have clothing
I don't know
at
that
every
we-
campus, don't we?
We can provide hygiene stuff, but we don't do that like on a regular basis. We just do the snack packs on a regular basis. Now, I will say, Mr. Warren and I have been talking and we are pursuing, I brought up Bright Futures a long time ago. And we are planning on pursuing that, but we're gonna bring it to you all for a resolution. But I would like to do that because if our district is an affiliate of Bright Futures will do a lot of the legwork for us in bringing everybody together so that when we have a need, their goal is to meet that need within 24 hours. And so they'll help us bring all that together. We'll have an advisory board for Bright Futures. And so we are trying to move forward with that.
Good,
So.
good.
Well, and we have clothing at every campus, don't we? Because I know at high school, we had so much, we had to finally like
The
get rid of
nurses
some
have
of
a
it.
closet, each nurse has a
Yeah.
closet of clothes and.
And I know the counselor at intermediate, she had some, was it last year? She had a whole room that
Oh,
had like
yeah.
shoes and stuff in it.
Yeah.
That somebody had donated, to pass out.
Yeah.
So,
This one was St. Paul's exterior doors need to be replaced, is that on a rotation, like, you know how our doors are getting up here? What's, I don't know.
This is the first time I've seen anything about
Okay.
exterior doors at St. Paul having a problem. But no, we have no plans, or I have no plans for us replacing. It's something we can look at and see.
Okay.
We have replaced several outside here that, I mean, honestly, you could double them over. They were broke down so bad, so we've replaced some here if we found them. But yeah, on the security issues, if there's a problem with the door, and especially an exterior door, we're gonna take care of it.
will that be covered with some of the, the safety and security grant that we got
It's already been all allocated.
Okay.
I mean, I will say that we did, I mean, part of that is we bought some new panic door hardware and that kind of stuff and that kind of thing, but that money's been allocated now. I mean, I feel fairly confident as many times as we've been down there and I go through and do, you know, a safety check once a month at each campus and exterior doors is one of those things. I'm not aware of any current situation with that.
So they're all locking and do they have those cool little locks, like if somebody were trying to get in? that
Each
you
classroom does.
Have you can put it in there and nobody can get in.
Yeah, each classroom does, and then, you know, all the exterior doors down there stay shut at all times and they have to be buzzed in. And they all have access control on them.
That's cool. Okay. I was confused on this one, really confused, on the, I think it's the last page. It's the makeover, the middle school, it says makeover the part of the middle school that's falling apart. There are holes in walls, termites eating books, mice and bugs in the science rooms. Wind blows through the bricks. I'm thinking, I was in that room for 27 years and I can guarantee you I was on the bottom, I don't know about the top, but the bottom was the safest building in the whole school. When the tornado came, you wanted to be there. And sometimes I think mice and bugs are due to, I know when I got my room at the high school, it was infested with mice and bugs, but it was because of how it was, things were stored in there and we had to clear the whole thing out. So are we having problems like the buildings?
We have had that. It has been a battle all year long with mice and bugs. And the bug guy knows me personally now because I call him every couple of weeks and get him to come in. And one of the things that we've been looking at is like, are you storing food in your so I mean, we're changing some habits and and it just takes time.
But it's not the building itself.
No, a lot of it has to do with is actually it falls back on the maintenance. Is we've got to keep the leaves and we've got to keep the grounds taken care of. When those leaves get up against the building, it gives a place for the mice to go stand. So I mean, we've been working towards trying to get some of this cleaned up so that we can get the bugs away. I mean, and unfortunately too, we can't help whenever students and people bring the rodents in with them too. But we've been working. It's just been, the problem wasn't created overnight. We can't fix it overnight. And we've been working on trying to police the grounds and keep the leaves, back and keep things cleaned up a little bit better to help try to police that situation. But yes.
Trees make it pretty, the leaves make it hard. So the trees make it pretty and the leaves make it hard.
Yeah, you ask my guys and they would be all for cutting every tree down on that thing. But, we're working on trying to get that clean. I mean, it just.
And so.
Spiders are hard to get rid of too.
People need to know, don't store things in cardboard boxes, don't keep it on the floor, don't have a bunch of that stuff.
Yeah, and one of the biggest issues is that I encountered whenever I came in is we were so short-staffed whenever I first started that literally we had trash still in trash cans from the last day of school in July because we didn't have enough manpower to go around and clean it until July.
Didn't the bug company come in and do pretty extensive?
Oh yeah, over Christmas break and over Thanksgiving break, I had them at intermediate and over Christmas break, they did a pretty intensive. I mean, we've got traps now for if somebody calls and complains, we can bring traps and set in the room, and that also helps me out too to see what we've got when we set those traps out to see, is it a founded complaint or where it just.
Oh, yeah.
Well, a lot of those issues may have been resolved. I mean, this is back in the beginning of October, so.
Yeah.
I mean, if you, you look at the date on this, it's 10/9. So, a lot of this may have been resolved already. As far as.
We still have bug problems.
Well, yeah, but I'm saying.
About wind blowing through the bricks now, do we have settling that much?
Settling, no, the wind blowing through the bricks, you can kind of put on some of how the HVAC design was. And over, early fall, late fall, we took care of some of that, they were just sucking air from our return airs from just right outside. The library, for instance, wouldn't even get down, on a 95-degree day, wouldn't get below 80 degrees until we went in there and kind of fixed some of our air leakage in there, so.
I know a couple of years ago, we had to have Ramjack come in and lift that courtyard building because there were gaps. Like Leisha Johnson's room, you could see in from outside through the bricks, and I think once they've done that, I don't know that we have anywhere that has,
In the science rooms, in the back one storage room, there's like an air vent, at least in the bottom one. And so but it never caused really any problem. It keeps the circulation really good. And then your dad, for me, on the front side, it was drawing moisture and making it, like the wall was, the paint was peeling off and everything. And he came in and put some sort of recycling, and so that took care of that problem. So,
Yeah.
So some of these are taken care of, but.
Well, and then, plus on some of that recycling stuff, who is it, Mackenzie Robertson? Is that the science teacher?
Yeah.
She called me in a panic the other day. She's freezing to death because her heater was locked out on her. And I won't blame Bailey on this one as a thermostat problem.
It's technology, it plugs in.
But, and I'll be honest, it was the first time that I walked into her room, and she has that recirculating system that she's talking about. She has a problem with that. And and I hate to say it, and I keep telling them, yeah, get the work orders in. This helps me and this helps you, and because I can't be in every room every day to see what's going on.
No.
So, but as far as the bugs and the cracks and stuff, I feel pretty confident that I've taken care of everything that we know that's out there.
So I noticed on here a lot of playground equipment for all schools. That's PTSO. That's where you fundraise and the PTSO buys that equipment. That's how the primary has such nice equipment, because they had a PTSO for a while that was on the ball, and they raised a lot of money to fund that playground.
And, and that's something we want for our kids.
It is.
What's that? Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Ms. Denberg. No, I'm sorry, I just was like, it's expensive stuff.
It is very expensive.
Getting it installed and put it the way it's supposed to be, it's not cheap at all.
I think the only thing on there that wasn't PTSO was the special education grants, equipment that they got for that.
And it took forever, and it wasn't anybody's fault, it wasn't anybody here's fault.
No.
It was just one of those things that took a long time.
So,
Because the first time it came, it was wrong, and then you guys get back, and it took like a year to get that.
I think we all agree that the middle school needs to be updated, the football facilities need to be updated.
I just don't want Sam Paul to ever think we really don't, we don't love you. So, but when there's something that needs to be done, and especially a safety thing, we need to.
Put that work order in.
But people also
Blaine
have
has
to
showed us that you're more than willing to go and check things at it whenever they put a work order in and get it taken care of as quickly as possible.
And I'll say this, with Jeff Patrick down in St. Paul, we're blessed to have Jeff Patrick in St. Paul. He goes above and beyond, and if I get a phone call from Jeff, it's because he needs money. So, but no, I feel like that Jeff does a really good job down at St. Paul. I've gone down and helped Jeff a couple of times on some stuff, and some of, knock on wood, I don't mean to kind of throw us under the bus, but in a lot of ways, St. Paul is better maintained than what we've got up here in Huntsville. And I think a lot of that has to do with is the size versus, there's not near as many buildings and square footage down there to take care of.
I think the biggest thing over the next 10 years in Huntsville is gonna be growth, room. I mean, having room for the students you're gonna have. I mean, that's gonna be the biggest issue for Huntsville. Because, I mean, you got schools that were, well, when was Watson Primary built?
When you were born.
Yeah, I mean, you got,
It was there when we moved here in 72, so.
I think it was 65 or.
65.
how much has the Huntsville School District grown since 1965?
A little bit.
And it's really gonna grow over the next little bit here.
It's supposed to. Well, that's a nice segue if we're okay with transition.
I didn't mean to transition things.
But we have the 11 by 17 piece of paper in front of you, and then also online here is kind of we called it a capital project plan, but it just kind of breaks down what we feel like from the surveys, from the information that we have, from general discussions with maintenance, with Bailey, with everybody that we could think of regarding what we see. You just have kind of an outline of what we feel like our biggest needs, projects, completed work will be over the next 10 years. And I'm going to start off, I'm just going to kind of walk through each part of it a little bit. The projected enrollment, and I have to say, this includes all campuses. So the state, we get this information from the state. The state does not separate out, well, here's St. Paul Elementary versus here's Watson. I mean, it does because of our configuration for Watson and intermediate, but it doesn't do it for the St. Paul campus. So all of these are all together, is what I'm trying to say.
And they don't include pre-K.
And it does not include pre-K. So we're current, or last year, 2256, this year, these are the projected numbers, okay? 2283, 2024, 25, and it just goes all the way across. So you can see kind of how the state is projecting their growth, and they project growth based off of, birth rates and, move-in rates and, just transfers and stuff like that. So I mean, they have their formulas that they use to try to calculate that for us. And this is what our our master facilities plans stuff is based off of, and just a lot of information from the state goes into this to be able to do that. The next is our building enrollment, and then the capacity, and I'm going to give the caveat of the capacity. That's just kind of a general number that I'm going to say me, I kind of ran it by other people to say, do you feel like this is okay? Do you feel like this is it overshooting at the high school? Is it undershooting? I don't know. I know that Bailey has said that when he graduated, they had 800 and some odd in the high school. And it is like capacity jam-packed. It's not like, oh, everybody's got their own room and counselors have 5 rooms and nurses have 3 different stations. It's like we're putting kids in every nook and cranny at that capacity. But we feel pretty comfortable that those capacity numbers are fairly accurate. Probably the only thing that might say draw it back would be fire code. And we didn't check fire code for it, so I mean that would be something that might lower those numbers as well. And we actually went through on Friday and kind of did go, okay, what would St. Paul buildings be at this capacity? And I have those numbers in my office. I didn't bring them in here, I forgot them. But we felt like we've got plenty of room to grow capacity-wise at the St. Paul campuses in our buildings right now. What we're seeing overall is that the St. Paul campus is not growing in general. It actually reduced students this past year. It had grown a little bit over the last 2 years before that. But we feel fairly comfortable to say that at max, right now it's at 200 and, I always want to say, I rounded up to 225, K through 12. And we feel pretty comfortable to say that it probably will not exceed 275 in this 10-year period, which there's no capacity issue in that realm for the facilities down there. But I just say all that to say, these numbers include all of the campuses. But you'll see that, K2, starting in 2022, that's the numbers that we had last year, going all the way to the high school, then the predicted numbers for this year and then next year, just all the way across. You can see that by the end of it, the high school is predicted to have 748 students in there, 9 through 12, same configuration, all the way across. So, that's where the capacity limit and numbers will be if this were to hold true. The next category, and please stop me at any point if you have a question or you want to make a comment. I'm just going to kind of walk through what we've done. The next one is completed work. So, last year we put in activity center CTE buildings, even though some of that was previous years, district-wide HVAC. This year, we will have the art room completed. We will be working on, if not completed, with door and lock replacement. We resealed student parking at the high school, and these were the major ones that were, that are costly. We get refunded for some of them, but some of them we do not. And then didn't have room to put it on there, but we have WPS office relocation. That was part of the safety grant, but also in thought process of if we get a school-based health clinic, then we now have a space for that at Watson Primary as well. So that is in that realm. They've already moved over there, but that's there. And then the rest of it is obviously open, not completed. This projected work and possible needs, these last two are things that could go hand in hand, but we tried to separate them out as, a possible need is one that we don't have, we're just not as solid as like, this has got to happen, whereas projected work is probably going to need to happen pretty soon, or will, it'll need more attention. So beginning in this year, the lighting and windows and the water heater replacement, baseball batting facility, that's something that we'll talk about in more detail probably here in just a few minutes. The freezer replacements at the maintenance office or maintenance shop is going to be, it's a thorn in our side right now. It wasn't designed to be a freezer, it was designed to be a refrigerator. The floor is lifting, then creates gaps in the walls because it lifts up off the ground, it freezes and then expands. So, it's going to be costly to replace that flooring and those panels.
Where's this at?
The district shop. That's the shop, yes, sir.
And the self-funding, explain that to me. What's the difference in the self-funding and the ones that don't have self-funding beside them? So
that basically just means we don't have the opportunity that we know of to get a grant or to get partnership funding it had to come from our own operational funds at this time frame.
Okay.
Right, the way that we have it right now. And then going across, you see the middle school roof at St. Paul, the intermediate roof, partnership funding, roof repair at Watson Primary. That's not like replacement, it's just roof repair. Middle school campus repair, foundation. I'll come back to new facility, partnership applied. I know, but I'm just putting it on the timeline, but that has more of a discussion with it.
Let's put a star election.
Yeah. Eventually we'll have to apply for high school roof replacement. We put storm shelter at St. Paul on there. There's a whole, that's interconnected with the church building that's on the campus and all of that. So that's something that we feel like we need to work on within the next 10 years and sooner. I don't mean, these are just things that were there, but a storm shelter would be something that could be utilized. I think that we would have to look into the process of FEMA grants specifically
That's what I was
for
gonna
it.
say, ask is, surely there's something
Because it
there
would,
for
it would
that.
serve the community and not just the school. So I mean, put that far out to give us time for legwork on that
How far is
aspect.
St. Paul from National Forest? There may be some grants through them on that too,
Depends on which way you
because when
go.
I worked for the forestry, they did a lot of stuff like that.
Okay. Yeah, I
Right.
don't know.
Probably 3 or 4 miles going up Baldwin Creek, there would be the closest.
So, I mean, there may be some
My
potential.
question was, you was talking about the storm shelter and you mentioned the church.
Yes, sir. The only update I have on that is that we are trying to figure out and I'm gonna say this wrong, I'm sure, but I've contacted the mayor, contacted one side of a family. From what I understand, there's basically 2 different families that own it because it went from being a church-owned church-owned entity to back to those families. And I've actually been able to contact one half of that group. The other half I'm trying to identify and contact them as well. That's my status update on it.
I just wondered how come it was like put on a 6-year plus, you know?
Just to give time to get grants, because there's bound to be quite a bit of grant money out there for that.
Okay, but like I say, I live over there and I have been in there when they've said get the decks and stuff, guys, you're just there.
Right.
One little valley.
No, and this is a fluid document. It's not like it's set in stone that that's the year that would have to happen, but we're just trying
And
to.
are you thinking about the ground to where the church is or actually using it somehow?
I don't know that we would be able to use that structure that's already there as the church. That I can't say that we would be able to refurnish, reuse, or do anything to.
I wouldn't think so. There'll be certain stipulations that you gotta go through with it. Get
I know
grants.
I know the city a few years back gave the school a piece of property on, I'm gonna say on the southeast side. Had the big Simmons house, 2-story, tore down because of mode. I thought to say that building, but it didn't work out, but looks like that'd be a good place for something like that.
For a storm shelter.
Yes, sir. Oh, no, that's the idea. I'm sorry. I should communicate that better.
Down
I'm
beside
sorry.
the football/baseball field across the street, right there, that corner lot.
Oh, that would be the
That
location.
corner lot, yes. And it's just sad since they actually tore the building down that we fought for.
One concern I would think of is the amount of time it would take students to get to that. I mean, that's 2 blocks over from the cafeteria.
Too long.
That property, I mean, you,
Yes.
And I can't tell you what, as far as funding if there are requirements of location and stuff like that.
They've gotta be a way between the city and the school to make it happen.
Yes, sir.
Might be.
I would think so.
And as remote as St. Paul is, there's gonna be grants to
Absolutely.
available.
Gotta be. Absolutely.
And the last thing on that projected work was, roofing replacement potentially. Like I said, they came through and did an assessment of our roofs. We had 2 different entities and we've kind of prioritized those based off of that as well. So that indicates that our St. Paul campus roofs, with the exception of middle school, were pretty good. But putting it in a cycle where here's a potential replacement for that campus-wide, there's where you put it as a projected work. Then that last row is potential needs, and like I said, this is kind of one of those, it's not a wish list, but it's not, out of the 2 areas, it's not the priority. District-wide bathroom stall replacements, playground at St. Paul, baseball field reconstruction, then going across football turf, and we We just kind of put things where it might fit in or where it could potentially be. And having talked with David and met with him on that as well. Reseal, resurfacing selected parking lots, trying to take bites out of that as we go along, not try to do all of them at once, but here's one at here's one or two spots at a time. Water line replace or repair at the high school. It's seen some settling as well, if I remember right. We put in the St. Paul bleacher replacement, which they are, and St. Paul floor refinish, and this is in the main gym or the new gym. I know that the bleachers are difficult to manipulate and move around, and the floor. This is basically a total refinish, get it down, repaint, refinish, everything, which is costly to do. Baseball, softball field construction, which we'll get to that on those charts. Floor retiling at the intermediate and at the high school, and then football field construction. So that's kind of what we've brainstormed, I guess would best way to put it, as potential needs that we have coming up within the district, and just trying to get it out there so that people and that you all can start thinking about, how does this fit into the overall goals of the district facility-wise, or even creating those goals for the district facilities-wise.
I have a question on, I don't know the answer, I don't know this, but on floor retile. Instead of having to retile, because we did that, and I know in the last 8 years it was retiled out at the high school at some point.
Always.
Exactly. So, just always, because the rooms are really bad. Would it be better just to strip it down and just do cement floors?
Just polish. Oh, gosh.
No? See,
With all that glue underneath,
Oh,
it would
gosh.
be a real chore to get it back down to
It would.
the concrete.
I mean, it is something that you can look, I don't mean this, they would know better than that. It is something that could be looked into, but the cost it may be cheaper to retile it than to do that.
It's a lot cheaper. I mean,
It is.
None stained cement to begin with, it wouldn't be a problem, but with all that years of glue,
You'd have to-
strip down and stuff, and
to
wax.
grind it and polish it to be able to get to where we can maintain it. And
Okay, I
then
just,
it's,
I didn't know.
whenever you go to polishing concrete, it gets pricey. And then plus our maintenance on it is exactly the same as what we do with tiles.
Okay. I had another question on up here, the high school student parking lot. I'm glad that's cool that it got refinished. I just wonder if we could make some sort of rule that before anything outside of buildings, not in classrooms, but outside of the buildings, if something were to get painted, if we need to get it approved by at least the superintendent, because it was really cool. A few years ago, 7 years ago, something like that, they painted the parking lots. Seniors could buy and it was really, really cool. But it just lasted for that year, and then we were stuck, and it was the same ones till they just paved them over. And then also that wall there at one point got painted, and it was I'm not saying it was ugly, the kids did it, but it was nothing that went to match the school at all, and so we ended up having to paint over it, and I'm just thinking maybe any kind of project like that needs to be approved by the superintendent before.
We've got a really talented art class up there that could probably make that wall look nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, really talented art class.
Come with the project and say, this is what it's gonna look like, and
Oh, yeah.
instead of just let's go out here and do these things. And then we're stuck with something that, And where is the Watson Primary School office gonna be relocated?
It's already got.
Where is
You
it?
walk in, it's right there on the right hand
Yeah,
side.
it's much safer.
Where those rooms,
Mhm.
the workrooms
Yep.
were and stuff,
Cause there's a
okay.
door there that, you have to buzz in to let in, instead of walking through and just going to the office.
And then being able
You can go down the
to-
hallways or whatever, you
Yeah.
just have to be buzzed in,
Oh, okay.
so it's actually much safer.
It's not
now.
great on special days, but on a day-to-day thing, it's great.
So that old
You gotta go with special days.
It's horrible on special days.
Like, you gotta go eat with your kids coming up.
If it's cold or raining or whatever.
Yeah, we get a grant.
And I've been outside for a while.
Another grant that we're working
Okay,
towards,
But,
there's a
day to
meeting,
day, love it.
first week of February that we're going to. for
that's
that.
awesome.
Definitely is improving safety there.
it is.
All right, back to this new facility.
Tear down.
So that brings up the,
Coach Russ, you may not know this, but that middle school drives me crazy for the safety issues of it.
I've heard some things, yes.
Doesn't like it.
so that little nugget of new facility, was put on there, and I approached, and I will take the blame for what you're gonna see on the documents that are there. And you all have it in the next set, of plans A through E, and they're up on the wall if you wanna go over there and peruse them. We have,
I'd just like to say thank you to Hyatt Jackson for.
yes,
putting
they've
this
done
together.
all of this, they've never billed us. Now, I'm sure they're doing it because they want the business, I'm not saying that, but
They're the best in the business.
they are, and I've worked with them a couple of times, and my experience with them has been great, every time. But they did this on their own after I said, hey, we've got this acreage, our new activity center is there. What would, they came to us first and said, we said, put us a new batting cage in this and tell us what that, put a sports complex. And they did that, and then, so I went back to them after that discussion and after we've made a little bit more headway with surveys, which were almost completed, believe it or not, it's almost done. But they got enough information to be able to go, okay, if you were to put I termed it a new high school, that was my fault. But if you can apply it to a new building, any academic facility. If you were to put that on there, A, is it even feasible to put it in this area? Because it's the property that we own already. And then B, what would that look like? What would that imprint on the property be? And so they went with that and.
Driving for.
Well, and the building out there makes sense for a middle school, at least for sure, 8th and 9th, because you could have 2 halls.
And that's what we've talked to, like if we were able to build a new facility, like there's the potential of reconfiguring the grades that are in the buildings that we currently have too, so, maybe.
Move 5th and 6th grade up to that building up
Potentially,
there.
there's all kinds of options there that, it could just be a 10-12 out there, so. We would look at all of that if we're able to build a new facility and try to figure out how we would
Adjust it.
potentially reconfigure.
In the long run, if we keep growing like this, we may need a junior high. So you could have a middle school and a junior high, and we would have the space available.
Sorry.
No, that's perfectly fine. Now, so when you start talking about this, then you start talking about, okay, what are the facilities that we have that are and this is really on the Huntsville campuses, although it does affect the entire district.
Right.
What is the highest need repair and maintenance buildings that we have on our campuses? What are the oldest? So you start looking through all of those age and maintenance costs and things like that, because once you start going down this route of, well, we need to get a building, then you're applying for partnership funding, because you can't, we wouldn't be able to fund it, self-funded. You're applying for, say it out loud, I'm sorry, you're looking at millages, you're looking at, you have to start going down that route. So, those are the caveats that you have to throw out there. Now, we're still talking about, we're not even talking about potentially applying for funding even in this cycle. So you're looking at, if we decide tonight, something like that is something that we'd want to do, we could put it on our list for a master plan this go around, but it wouldn't be something that we would even start talking about until 2 years down the road, as far as trying to put in for funding 2 more years down the road. So you've got time to start fleshing it out.
But everything takes so long, you gotta
It
start
does,
now.
you do need to start now.
And this was just like picking, like what,
Yeah, so I'm going back to,
Yeah, you gotta figure out
Yeah.
where
going back to that, I'm sorry, I kind of birdwalked there, I apologize. But going back to that original conversation in that area, on that acreage, my initial discussion with, or the secondary discussion with Hyatt Jackson and Gail and Brian, who were the architects that came here and talked to you all, was, okay, what would a high school, and I said high school, look like? Where could it be put? And could it be put in that area? And their first response was, no, you couldn't do it. And then they came back and said, you know what, you could. You'd be looking at a two-story facility, no matter what configuration you're looking at. And then they just kind of plotted it around. Here's where it could go. Here's where, here's where your football field, your baseball field, all the other facilities would go if you placed it there. And so, ultimately my goal for tonight is to kind of play the what if game with you all, to be as solid as we can with a batting facility, because that would be the initial construction. It would be funded through through donation. They are.
Buck Long Foundation's funding that, right?
Yes, the Buck Bonds, yes, sir. We have to, and we kind of did this a couple of months ago, so I'm not trying to recreate the wheel, but we did change the parameters of what that looks like a little bit by saying, okay, what if we added a new facility there too? A new academic facility. And, the survey is complete enough to where we will be meeting with the Buck Bond people and the architect in the upcoming weeks to see if that ball is really going to get rolling or not. Because we're to that point with everything. So that's a long-winded bird walk to say, my goal ultimately is tonight to go, okay, of these 5, where do you feel like the indoor batting facility is best suited for if we were to build another academic facility there?
Coach Preston, which one are you leaning towards?
When we met earlier this week or last week, what?
It was Friday.
It was Friday, last week, wasn't it? Boy, we've been out of school so much, I don't know what day it is.
Decide somehow.
But my initial options were, my favorites were C and E.
E.
And I think the longer we discussed it, I think most of us agreed on E is the best. And I look at that from an athletic standpoint. Our kids are gonna be able to get from the school building to their practice facilities relatively easily. You've got room for everything on one end, down around the football field. That new indoor facility would be there, and I picture that, and I think Bailey mentioned this, and he said it before I could, so he got me on this one, but it makes me think a lot of Farmington, and if you've ever seen their facilities, they're as good as there are, that's around. And that would allow our team to go straight into that indoor facility at games and come out, and you have everything you need right there. And then you also have I think the positioning of the new hitting facility in between the two fields would be in a really good spot too. And you got plenty of parking too. And
That's what my thing with parking.
I know
Parking lots on
this.
E are in a good spot.
Right, even, with the bids we put in for the basketball and volleyball tournaments at the activity center, one of the main questions on there is parking facilities and what parking do you have? And I went out one day and walked even the little gravel lot to count every little spot we could add in to make sure, because if the AAA doesn't feel like you have enough parking, that's a big knock against you. So I think this would help us in that too. And I think that's probably one of the biggest parking aspects of it out of all.
Congratulations on that.
Thank you very much, thank you.
And I would say one of the things that I kind of brought up in E as well is just access to each facility. I feel like with this design, you would have easy access to baseball, softball, football. I mean, some of the others kind of isolate the baseball, softball a little more, and so there'd be a lot of construction to get access to those facilities, like sidewalks and that type of stuff. With this, with E, I feel like it kind of minimizes that to some extent. And I do think, you know, Josh, you had mentioned that access coming in from the other side. I do feel like we could
Like it
still
is on
put a
the big-
road around the football field and connect it to our existing parking lot.
I think it might alleviate some of the traffic issues we may have.
We'll figure in several speed bumps down through there, cause you know how some of these idiots are out.
Yeah, well, you know, if you really think about it, right there, if you went in on what would be the east side of that football field, that would basically take you a straight shot for, what street is that right there? On the other side,
Or college, no, what is it?
the one that goes back to the south there, you know, cause now you come off of that road like you're.
Kane Street's right here.
Yeah.
To the east.
Not Kane, I'm talking about the
The
one that goes
by
south.
the housing up
Yeah,
there.
about the house that goes up by the football field.
Polk, yeah,
Yeah,
Polk.
that would take you a straight shot right across, you know, now you've got a kind of dog leg in there, you know, kind of turn, so.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, cause I mean, depending on what city, you could potentially put a light in right there for like when games are out.
Yeah.
Make it easier to get out of there.
And actually some more parking between the football field and the softball field right there would probably be a wise decision too.
Well, I think if we added that parking there, we would be in pretty good shape because, you know, everything's seasonal and, I think we
Except
would
for
have
graduation.
parking for, graduation, we would probably overflow a little bit.
It was
but-
hurting last year.
We are, with this one, we are taking that overflow parking that we currently have and adding this, which that would be more parking space than what we have, but. So we're not adding as much as we would like, but we're still adding some.
But you could add even a little bit more that way. I know it'd probably take a lot more dirt work, but you could still add.
Well, you can go back to the west a little bit too, you know. So.
Well, I mean, the parking don't have to be level with the football field. They could go down the hill a little ways and walk up on it and just level a pad out there and park on it. I mean, you know, yeah, it'd be nice to have it all perfectly level,
But it
but
could be tiered.
yeah.
Yeah, but then
And Coach Harris
you
had to
gotta
look at
worry
this.
about, you know, wastewater,
Not-
you know, the
no,
runoff.
don't believe so.
Then-
I don't think so.
No, Coach Harris didn't need to look at this.
Not these specifically, he's looked at, well, I can't even say, I don't even know.
Okay, well, you guys were talking about like the directions the baseball and softball fields are on this plan are they sitting where they would?
I mean, anyway you twist them, you're gonna be.
Saturday morning tournament, the sun's gonna be a little tough on
Yeah.
that one man, it's the only time.
Yeah, they're set correctly because the sun's gonna set in the west, and so your batters are not gonna be looking into the sun. Saturday mornings, it's gonna be the flip of that.
Saturday and Sunday morning tournaments is gonna be,
Yeah, but-
I mean, you know, and depending on the break of the hill, on what time you're gonna get it, it may not be all morning, cause you'd have to stand up there and look, cause the sun's gonna come over the hill there from Butterball, so it's, you know what I'm
Right.
saying, you got a little bit of climb time there.
Sure, but in terms of like evening and afternoon, it is set the correct day.
Good. Okay.
And as far as that goes, you wouldn't have to turn, I mean, if you wanted to turn them the way they're cut in, they would turn real easy if that was an issue. But,
I think they're fine the way they are though.
oh, yeah.
Somewhere,
Yeah, you're.
it's part of the sport.
So what I'm hearing is E. As far as from a consensus from the board, I like E.
Yeah.
You guys think that's good? I'm for it. Looks good. It looks good. I want Coach Harris, Coach Preston thinks it's
Coach Harris
good.
did say he's looked at it.
And he did look at it, okay. So as long as the coaches think that's super important for the
Parking
fields.
wise and just having it, the high school is right there to where they can easily get to football, they easily get to basketball. The CTE building is right behind it, if we cut in a
You gotta
path
really,
there.
that's another reason why
Or
I
just
kinda
a
wanted
quick-
to do a drive out, you know, in between the softball and the football. You could also take that and go to the left and go to where you can connect it over with the CTE buildings and connect all of that in one.
There's
Yeah.
plenty of room for a biking trail, a cross country,
Yes.
thing back in through there.
Well, Bailey, I'm stealing all of Bailey's points from the other day, but he had a good idea too. As soon as you turn off of the main road out here, the first thing you're gonna see is that really cool looking brand new high school.
Yep.
And then when you turn, you're gonna see the really cool looking arena. And then you got all the fields, so it's just gonna be a really cool space for the town and for the school. I mean, it's,
Well, you pull in over at Gravit at their new field, I mean, you pull out there and you got all, it's nice. I
Right.
mean, it's like, wow.
Yeah.
Gravit, Arkansas's got this?
yeah.
Oh, Lincoln too, Lincoln's.
Yeah, Lincoln. But it's over there Saturday.
One thing we've discussed as far as parking is, like, if this lot ever went for sale, we could potentially explore buying that and expanding it there too.
Let the band practice out there every afternoon, it would probably come up for sale. Be their market
That's a
and
good
stuff
idea.
right there, you know, I mean, not to be antagonistic and rude to the band, but
I would say their limits were pretty well tested when we built the activity center.
That's the 4:30 a.m.
Those 4:30 a.m. concrete
who
deliveries.
owns that?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I just know
I'm
we planted
just
up a tree
curious
or
as to
two.
who owned that, down through there.
I find out.
So I appreciate you all doing that. That will help us with Buck Vaughn and when we meet with architects, like, here's the one that we, even if, not to be negative Nelly, but even if it doesn't come to fruition, at least we know, here's what we want.
We've got a, what do you call it? When you say, a goal.
We gotta go, yes, sir. So, I can start giving you, I'm not giving you numbers, I don't mean that, but, in the discussion with the architect, just so that you all know, sticker shock is gonna be in landfill, in filling 11.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, so.
I was looking at it the other day, I guess it was Saturday.
Yeah.
I never really, I looked at it, but I never paid close attention to it, but I actually looked at it. That's a lot of dirt work.
Are they gonna
Yeah.
still want a 4-lane the rest of this Talpina? 412, 49, whatever we call it now?
I think they're.
Because if they
Yeah.
If they are, when they dig all that dirt out, a lot of times they need a place to go dump it.
Exactly.
And if we're close and let them dump it for free, that's free fill.
Yeah.
All you've got is dozer work in it then.
That's true.
So I mean, we could look into that. Any major construction like that's gonna dig out a hillside, cause not like there's any hillsides in Madison County if you're gonna build something,
Well, and
the potential's there.
You mentioned this and it made me think of it too, when we're talking about the turf for the existing football field. We'll save $20,000 to $30,000 if we get rid of the dirt that they removed when they level it, but just bring it over here.
Oh,
Go down the street.
Absolutely.
And it's gonna make that project cheaper and go
And
ahead and
make your dump
start.
truck bill cheaper too.
Sure, yeah.
Because most of them guys doing that stuff haul by the hour.
you can just
You
click
can
it
get 3 loads an hour if your loader man's fast.
Right.
Sometimes they'll donate it around here.
Okay. I don't know if there's more discussion to be had. I've gotten out what I needed. So I hate to be,
Natalie, what did you think?
Say that again, I'm sorry. There's so many people talking, it's a little bit, hard to hear everything.
Did you get a chance to look at the plans? Which one did you kind of like?
Honestly, I think it's the coach's opinion. They know most about it, and that's their territory, so.
So,
I think E is the.
my last question then is, are you all okay? This is this is the approved facilities plan from November when I brought it to you. Like, this is the list of things that we're doing. It's got St. Paul Elementary or middle school roof replacement. Sorry, it's miswritten on there. Roof replacement that things we have applied for, things that are in the works. Are we okay for me to add either academic facility or, I'll be as generic as they'll let me, is what I would say.
I think so.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure that, because we won't have we won't have drawings, we won't have anything just other than the idea of in 2 years down the road, we will probably be applying for funding for that.
Right.
So if you're all okay with that, then I'll move forward with that part of it too. The last item on there is our other properties. And if we're okay, we're just gonna push on. I don't know if anybody needs a bathroom break or anything like that, but I'm gonna let Matt, he's kind of done a little bit more legwork on this. After our initial conversation that I've brought to you from a gentleman who purchased property that we found out was right next to ours, he found out that it was right next to ours, and had the conversation with me. I know the process for that, but that opened up this little nugget of worms that we have all these little properties all around, and I'm gonna let Matt kind of explain that.
So, I probably spent more time on this than I should have, but it got pretty interesting, you know, just finding all these old school buildings or whatever's there. So I mapped all of these, used Google My Maps, and tried to map all the different locations. Now, I only mapped the locations that aren't being used really by the school district. I mean, of course, there's our St. Paul bus barn, our St. Paul campuses, our Huntsville campuses. All of that stuff is in this as well, but I didn't map those on here. And so I think, Bailey, if you hover over like that one at Clifty, which I believe is the Hickory Grove. I don't know if you can see that picture. There you go. So like this is the picture of the Hickory Grove. Are you able to zoom in any on that?
Yeah, you can.
This one actually has a cemetery on it. So you have a little building that appears to maybe be a school building, old school
They
building.
used it for church. I ain't sure what they don't still have church in that sometimes, man.
Yeah.
I think like maybe a summer revival or something. I'm not positive, but I can find out.
Okay, and then, like I said, the cemetery right there, and looks like the property line cuts through the road. Now, I pulled the property lines off of Ag Data Scout. I don't know if you've ever used that or not, but they're not 100% perfect, but they're usually pretty close. So.
Yeah, they're within 30 or 40 feet most of the time.
Yeah, so you can pull that one back down and. So the one in Forum is actually the one that got this started. There's not anything on that property. It's just a vacant lot out there. As far as we know, there's nothing on that property. Jonathan's been out there and looked at it. So the people right next to it wanted to set a dumpster out there, and it was gonna be on our property. And so they called and just made sure that was okay and all of that. And they've actually asked if they could potentially purchase that property, and that's kind of what got us started looking at all these and what we can potentially do with them.
Is that not where that old white building
Yeah,
is?
I said
That's
there's an
old
old
My building's right
church.
beside it.
Williams, or what's his name, Williams,
Yeah.
used to live there?
That's this right here.
Okay. I got you. I knew there was one right in there close to McKnight, but that's just,
What's that? I just saw the other day, that house right across the road burnt down.
yeah, it burned down Friday night or Saturday morning, somewhere in through there. It was a blessing, to be honest with you. It was pretty rough. I mean, it looked like it's about to fall from under it.
So there's, like I say, there's properties all over. There's one right next to the Ball Creek Church. There's one in Japton right on the corner where the Japton store's at. There's just properties all over the place. As you can see, I think I've mapped 15 different properties, one of them being the St. Paul Public Library. It shows that we own that piece of property. And while we're on the topic, Natalie, I know you'd asked about the baseball field. I did double check that, and that does belong to the school district.
Okay.
But there's one on the Kingston Square, that Venus Mountain one.
Okay.
So they're all over the place.
Okay, the reason, does anybody know why we got these? Well,
We didn't pass away and they can do it.
no. Originally, federal was that, lands in sections, right? On the map, the sections, and then there's, a township, there's 36 sections to a township. And the 16th township was dedicated to education. You probably knew this in school history or something.
Yeah, no
And
ma'am, I
so,
didn't say that.
so everybody, so that was what it was for. And it really wasn't ever supposed to be sold. But as time went on, they allowed some of them to be sold, and then sometimes there were corrupt school boards that bought it themselves, with people on it and did that sort of thing. And so, but what would happen is they were given the land, but then the community had to come up with the money for the buildings and usually pay for the school, the teachers and stuff. So, the school building is usually shared, or most of the time, with a church. So the problem, like the Kingston building, if you look at that, it's right up next to Frank, that is the Kingston Community Center that is used continually.
Mhm.
And you can see how it's maintained all around there. So I mean, I don't know how we could even touch that. I mean, that would be like, and
But
then.
there are some of them that could be
It's like
sold and put into building
Middle
fund.
School Hill, maybe, those. But a lot of them, if they're being maintained, I don't even know if we could, if you went to court, if the school has not maintained it at all, if it's been maintained for X amount of years by certain people, they can claim it, especially
And
if
that's
it's
more
attached
like,
land. So it's
I
pretty,
think, yes, there's the potential of selling some properties and potentially putting some money back in our building fund, but also like, I mean, we wanna make sure that, we wanna send somebody out and make sure these are actually our properties, that they still belong to us, and if somebody's using it, like in that scenario, what do we need to do to make this happen to where that belongs to them and not the school district and
or just
however
leave it
we
like
need
it
to-
is, like
Yeah.
Longhorn,
Exactly,
that church
because-
is still there and they still use it.
Joe gets drunk and falls and breaks his leg out there at Hickory
If something
Flat.
happened at one of those buildings and it's.
And he comes back home and skilled it, we're liable.
It's 'cause it's
Well,
that
the,
6
I mean, you know,
the Kingston Community
Bill
Building.
shot their lawyer to try to squeeze
So
I've been to a lot of
that's
those, and I wasn't supposed to. There's some stupid stuff that goes on. I know, I was there.
Where at?
The Kingston Stone.
No.
So what you're
With
saying
your
is
son.
maybe we could just.
Well, I was wearing a badge too.
One thing that I did wanna bring up too, in St. Paul, the old superintendent's house is down there. One of our employees actually rents that house.
I was gonna say there were cars parked there.
Yeah, he brings a rent check up here every month and pays rent. I checked on that to make sure we're keeping up with that, and we are, and then there's a lot next to that, and then a lot behind that, that we own as well that are vacant, and one of those is where that house was tore down, I believe, that you were talking
Yes, the
about.
next one right behind it, they used to have, one of the trailers from school, used to sit down there for a long time.
And
Yeah.
are they touching, like they're adjacent to
They
the
all
school
border
property?
each other.
So we wouldn't probably ever wanna try to get rid of that because we might need that in the future for St.
Did
Paul.
you say the school owns the St. Paul Library?
The land.
So the way it's shown is that we own the land that the public library is on, yes.
Up at the corner.
Mm-hmm, yeah, you can pull that one up too if you want. Yeah. So right there's the public library and.
I was looking at that on the email the other day, I was like,
When that
what's going on with
became,
that?
can you find out when that became St. Paul?
Yeah, we can talk to the county clerk.
Because, I had family that had a cafe there all my life, I just liked it.
Yeah.
Maybe it was after them. During Clyde days.
Yeah.
I don't know, my thoughts are, if we're gonna.
Sometimes I remember hearing
we need to
something
show
about
that
the
we're doing
school
everything we
buying
can
it at one
to
time,
come
like
up with as much of this
after
money as
that
we can
building
and be a good
burnt.
steward with what we have.
But at the same time, all these places that are being used by
Well,
churches,
yeah, like in
they're like-
libraries, that's, you know.
Yeah. One thing that I thought about with the middle school hill ones, I don't know when those were purchased, but I wondered if that was for egress,
It was,
to have another
the idea was that
another
we
egress
build
out
it
of there.
yes.
Yeah.
Could
We
you,
thought that a few, I mean,
to build a, what?
an access
An
road.
exit, yeah.
I was also curious about the one you showed there at Combs, that's 295 at Combs.
Yeah, you can pull that one up.
This is that property that you're talking about right here, Bobby, that
That's
the
where
house used to be on.
Okay, yes, thank you.
You know?
Some of them must have been sold, cause like McConnell Chapel's owned by somebody.
And the one over in West Liberty, over by West Beavers.
Somebody else's property.
You're wanting to look at the one on Venus Mountain?
The one just
No,
above
down the
Combs
Combs
there.
on 295, right there,
Greasy Creek,
yes.
that's just a patch of wood thing.
Right in the middle of somebody else's
I
stuff.
mean,
Yeah.
Thornberry School District.
Okay, it's right there.
Well, it's Thornberry owns
everything
all
around
around it,
yeah.
and then school district owns right in that little.
Is it
So,
there by
section.
the old, Greasy Creek, church, or, schoolhouse, the
No.
Governor Father's
Zoom out a
house?
little bit.
Governor Father's house is just right in that area.
Looks like some
Good
good
for
hunting.
Gwen Young lives.
Wynn's
right here.
Yeah, that's the Governor Father's area, right?
Somebody needs to post that, I'm just
I
saying.
thought it was
That's good land.
What is it?
Governor land, that's good land, guys.
Yeah.
Governor Father's, he was family.
Yeah, so I don't know, I mean, you guys have got pictures of all those pieces of property. I don't know
Okay.
if there's any more information I need to give you with that, or.
I mean, I think the first thing is to talk to a real estate lawyer and see what can be done with it.
Well, we need to go down to the county office right down here and find out if we still hold the deed on it. If it's still up
Well,
there.
so the county clerk sent us the list of
Oh,
parcels
she-
that we own,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, another thing on that, just because the deed says that they owned it, I'll give you an example right now, there's a piece of property right next to ours, Matt's brother bought the part up on top, well, that little piece of property that's acre plus was not part of the trust. And so they wanted to sell that, since it's right by us, we were gonna buy it. And their deed says they own that, plus like a half an acre going across the road and onto our creek. Well, for 40-some years, we've lived there, and the fence has always been on that side of the road. Nobody's ever come across the property, and nobody's ever maintained that property. If you go to court, they're not gonna say, oh yeah, now you get to move the fence over to the other side of the creek. They're just.
They have got to contest that within 3 years after the property changes hands from the owner before, if the fence was there, because Ronnie Obenchain lost some land right across the road from his chicken houses to Leon Davidson, about 30 acres. Leon claimed it and everything else, and the court would not give it to him, and he lost 30 acres.
Yeah, well, we had that happen down, we have like 3 creeks running on ours, and years ago, Lou Stankin was a surveyor first, and then he was a lawyer, so we got lucky with him. But the people who bought across the creek from us on the other side wanted to move the fence, cause their deed said they owned to the other side. The fence had always been on the other side of the creek. When we went to court, the fence had always been there for, who knows, I don't know how many years before us, and had it been maintained, and so they just said no. So it didn't matter what their deed says. So that's what, some of the deeds are not gonna matter, cause you see some of these places, they're being maintained, they're being mowed, you can tell it's being cleared, not the one in Thornberries. There's nothing, but all the ones like with the churches, there at like Hickory Creek, there's a church and a cemetery, I mean, what are we gonna do with it? Who's gonna buy that, what are we gonna do with it, you know?
Right.
So just because the deed says it, if you go out there and there's people using it and maintaining it, then there wouldn't even probably be worthwhile to fuss with it.
Hickory Grove is the schoolhouse and the cemetery's fenced off, just, and the rest of that land, I think Glasgow, matter of fact, the Sheerock dude, I think he's got cattle on it. Now, I don't know if he's got it leased from, what was that guy's name that run around barefoot all the time down there, Josh? Ken Flinch. You see he's barefooted all the time, chicken house, dairy farm, they call him the barefooted farmer. I've never seen a man wear a pair of shoes, known him for 50 years. But, and it was spring, winter, summer, and fall.
Yeah.
But, he had that land down in there and had cattle and stuff for years and had a dairy farm.
But, I mean, if there are
The
some
middle
that
school
make
lots, those 2 lots on the back side of the middle school might be a possibility.
Yeah, and I would say they're worth a pretty good penny right now, the way the market is.
Well, land out there where I live, just on that straight road, it's appraised between $6,000 and $10,000 an acre right now. And that's rural land.
Right.
Yeah, I think John Thompson's, I heard the other day that it sold there on Farmers Road. I think it was 7 something.
Oh, yeah, I mean, it's priced that Billy Pitts farm the other day, but I think he didn't wanna sell it before he died. He priced it somebody for like 20,000 an acre, cause he didn't really wanna sell it because if they wanna pay it, oh, yeah, I'll sell it.
Everything sold around Combs area in the last 2 or 3 years has been 10,000 plus.
Alright.
And it's settled.
Well, don't leave nothing laying on the table when you price it.
There's that one piece out
No
there
joke.
at Mitchell Branch, you know where that is? That's right there by that Kings River Fall Trail.
Right,
You walk
yeah.
up, there's a little piece just down from that.
Yeah.
I don't know what they do with their way out there, but
That's it right there.
but it doesn't look like there's
Oh,
anything
there's a
on
Griffin
it.
Springs
It looks
School.
like a turnout or something.
I bet that's so Griffin Springs Schoolhouse, really.
I think ultimately our goal was to just, it was prompted by this other gentleman. We did some digging, Matt did some, I mean, he did the legwork on it. But we wanted to give you this idea of what is actually listed as owned by the school district. I feel like we will come back to you in the next couple of months with a scenario for the property that was initially brought to our attention specifically. Now, the others will keep continuing. There's no hurry. We're not even looking to do anything with it necessarily right now, but that one, I feel like we may need to go ahead and try and move forward. But we will make sure that we're doing everything the right way.
Well, when it comes to needing money, you'll be closer to selling that stuff than you will be getting another village passed on it.
No, I mean, if we show good faith and good stewards, we'll be better off. But if we're just sitting there going, oh, well, you gotta fund all this, we can't come up with nothing. But by putting the money in the market accounts that we've got going, we're trying to raise as much of it as we can. So, and that's what we gotta do, we gotta keep,
Well, it
being
took them
honest with the
25 years to get the last one.
Yes, sir.
Do we not also own, and I could be totally wrong, where the high school is? Is there not some more property that comes down kind of behind where the old boat ride house there? Do we own like more acreage that we aren't using?
I don't think so.
Don't think so?
I don't see anything there, but I can look back at it and see.
It would be where, Leatherberry, is,
Right?
not Peg, her son, where he's living now, it's that old house in, with that, was it Barry guy that came in here and redid it, was it the old
Richard?
Garrett house or the old, Oak Ridge house?
The Garrett House is the one with the gazebo there.
In the front, so it's the old boat ride house at the back, and he redid it and Bill Leatherberry bought it. So the land just behind that, or into the
But over towards the street.
left of it.
I see the Leatherberry Trust, but if anything,
Closest we extend is the bus barn, I think, that way.
yeah.
There's
That's
a
the farthest we
there's a
go.
property line right there at the back of the bus barn, cause I remember when we was up there one day, some guy drove a four-wheeler off down into there and about got hung up, but property line, it's pretty brushy.
Yeah, I don't see anything else around the high school.
The last thing that I've given you is just a comparison with the Northwest Arkansas Cooperative and not all of the OUR, but the closest ones around, for their millage rates, just so that you know where we are, where in comparison to those and to, the OUR area as well.
we're lower than everybody else.
Which, Wendy, why don't you read those so people at home can, anybody watching?
Well, before I do that, I'll just tell you, it's by county first, so like Benton, Washington, then Madison, and hopefully alphabetical.
So Bentonville's at 48, Decatur, which is itty bitty, is 42.5, Gentry's at 46, Gravitz at 39.56, Pea Ridge is 47.2, Salem Springs is 44.9, Rogers is 41.9, Elkins is at 44, Farmington's at 42, Fayetteville's at 45.65, Greenland's at 39.5, Lincoln's at 42.7, Prairie Grove's at 42.5, Springdale at 40.5, West Fork 41.6, and us at 36. Oh, we have more on the back. Berryville at 42.5, Green Forest at 36, Harrison at 39.2, Alpena 33.6, Jasper 36.8, and Deer at 33.
You missed Eureka Springs.
Oh, Miss Eureka, sorry.
That's not on there.
Oh.
I was just curious.
Eureka is a strange millage, scenario.
That's what
They don't
brought
take a
that up.
lot, they have a lot of money. It'll be, well, I can look it up, I'll tell you right now,
Eureka Springs got a pretty massive city tax.
Well, and this is not saying we're asking for millage.
No, we're
No,
not asking for
no,
millage,
we're
we're
just-
just saying where we're at.
Yeah.
Information.
We're in the bottom,
The bottom.
Yeah.
We're at the bottom.
and this is
School's
taking
much
into
smaller than that.
consideration everything that was passed for the jail also, right?
That was a.
That was
different-
a separate
Okay.
But this is with a 3 mills increase. When we passed that millage, we increased it 3 mills from 33 to 36.
So when that runs out, we're gonna be the same as Deer.
So in our area, because our area is like east of us, and the smaller schools like Berryville, Green Forest, Harrison, Alpena, those, the next closest is 39.5. So 3.5 ahead of us, okay?
Eureka is 36.13.
Plus all the tourism dollars.
And Eureka would be in that other co-op.
I know you are.
They already know.
42.
Yeah, I mean, Lincoln's a very similar district, very similar.
That is, I appreciate everything that you all have done tonight greatly. And that is all I had. Please take these home, call if you have questions. I'll talk through whatever I can if I know it, and if I don't, then we'll find the answer.
Do we need to take a motion to adjourn?
Dude, yes
All right,
ma'am.
can I get a motion to
I'll
adjourn?
make a motion.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I'm sorry, I
It was
missed
either
all of
Nick,
that.
Josh made the first motion, Steve and Nick will.
Give it to Steve.
And it looks like for the next 2 weeks, we can have school.
Yes.
Please.